streets in the central business district and environs still have heaps of garbage as well as debris collected from gutters during the exercise. The National Service Secretariat has released personal identification number PIN codes for the enrollment of prospective National Service personnel for the 2018-2019 service year. According to a statement signed by the Executive Director of the scheme, Mustafa Yusuf, prospective personnel should access their PIN codes with their respective index numbers on the scheme's website. International news: North Korea says its intention to denuclearize, unveiled at a historic inter-Korean summit, was not the result of US-led sanctions and pressure, warning the United States not to mislead public opinion. North Korea has been hit by a series of UN and US sanctions in recent years in a bid to rein in its nuclear and missile programs. Those are our major news highlights. Remember, we're streaming live on our Facebook page and on 3news.com. Let's start with our first story. More than 1,000 unauthorized structures at the Slum near the Redco Flats at Medina have been demolished. The Sunday dawn operation carried out by Joint Police Lanquantanang Medina Municipal Assembly Task Force was to rid the area of suspected criminals.
The early Sunday morning exercise was aimed at evicting squatters occupying portions of land which have become the biggest hub for criminals. A combined team of policemen, task force and the Lanquantanang Medina Municipal Assembly moved into the Slum neighborhood to undertake the exercise. The operation, which was carried out as early as 3 a.m., affected more than 5,000 squatters living on the portion of land behind the Redco Flats at Medina. Among the affected persons were head porters who lived in makeshift structures. The place is also known to house suspected criminals and prostitutes of different nationalities. 3 churches cited in the area were, however, not touched. This is Fishline, one of the biggest slums in Medina here at the Redco Flat. And the structure I find myself in is one of the many structures here that was demolished this morning. And just after 5 hours of demolition, the structures are back. The people have managed to put up the makeshift structure again. Others alleged they were charged varying sums of money before the land was given to them.
Last 3 days, 10 million.
We were charged for occupying the land here. 3 days ago, we paid 1,000 cedis.
The public relations officer of the Lanquantanang Medina Municipal Assembly on phone, Isaac Odum, said more than 3 months' notice was given to the squatters to vacate, but they were adamant. According to the PRO, the assembly plans to establish a new market, lorry station, and also relocate the hawkers along the Medina-Adentan stretch, which belongs to the former Bank for Housing and Construction.
Let's get on to the telephone lines now. Farouk Brahima is Executive Director of the People's Dialogue on Human Settlements. He joins us now. Good evening, Farouk, and thank you extremely for joining us. Now, I need to understand what explanations you will have for the emergence of slum communities like the one which was pulled down today at the Redco Flats.
Yeah, good evening, Stephen, and good evening to your listeners. Basically, the slum that was pulled down today just tells you the story of a failing housing situation in our country. So, for some of us, this doesn't come to us as a surprise, but we have so many of these settlements that require some re-engineering, and so that's what I see today.
So this is mainly also as a result of system failure. We have been unable as a country to provide housing for the poor and marginalized, correct?
Exactly the point. We have to begin to diagnose the problem. You see, we've been doing this for the last 18 years, since I came on the scene. For the last 18 years, you find city authorities embarking upon demolitions upon demolition. It has never been a solution. It's never been a solution. And some of us, we think strongly that we need to begin to tackle the root causes. The housing situation is in a mess. We are not producing more houses. The little that the poor manage to build, you go and demolish those houses. You further reduce the number of shelter available to you. My brother, the point is that within urban planning systems, you would definitely have to do some demolitions. But our point has always been that first, you need to follow the due process. There are procedural protections for people. One, we don't do evictions during bad weather. I've said this since 1999 to 2000. You don't do evictions when the weather is bad. Where do you want people to live when it's raining? So one, this is a violation of human rights. You don't do them during bad weather.
So Farouk, let's get it right. You acknowledge that the problem is there and should be removed, but you think that approaches that have been used in the past and this particular one is wrong because the weather is bad, it's raining, and you're kicking people out of places where some of them have lived for many years, 4 to 5 years, or even more.
Precisely so and beyond. As a country, we have failed to provide housing for those who need it most. Almost all the time, in the last 10, 15 years, we haven't seen any form of housing that speaks to the majority of Ghanaians. And so for evictions, we link evictions to forced evictions. It's a violation of human rights. The second point I want to emphasize is that it is tied to livelihood and tied to education. Tomorrow morning, most of these kids will not go to school because of the evictions. Have we thought of that? We are saying that you need to do a pre-eviction impact assessment. How many people will be affected, how many children, how many women, how many aged. Before you embark on any eviction, you need to provide alternatives. And so if all this hasn't been done...
But Farouk, is the state really obliged to, for example, provide safeguards for the interests of these slum dwellers? I mean, for God's sake, I mean, the state cannot provide housing for each and every individual citizen of this country. That's very fair. But if we look at people like that who have traveled from far and near to come and settle in areas where they possibly are economically active, they're doing some form of job or the other, shouldn't they be able to provide for themselves dwelling places whilst they are in the city earning incomes?
Definitely, my point on this matter is that when we say the state has a duty to provide housing, we are not asking the state to build houses for everybody. The right to housing means that the state must desist from making people homeless. So, in fact, the bar stops at the state's doorstep. Whenever there's an eviction, you hold the state responsible for its action or inaction. Now, coming to your point, you see, the built environment we operate in is so expensive. Houses are so expensive. Rents are very high. In fact, the Rent Act is one of the most violated acts in the whole of country. We are not supposed to charge more than 6 months. People take more than 6 months. People cannot pay their rents. They evict them here and there. So you don't expect migrants to move into Accra and then find adequate shelter within this short period and pay for rent. If rent were monthly and rent were 6 months, then we could ask people to pay for rent. But 2 years, my brother, where are you going to get that from? So definitely, our context as a people, we need to sit down, we need to look at the entire housing sector. We are failing massively. It used to be 1.5 million annually. As I speak with you, in the last 10, 15 years, we have not contributed to the housing stock. And we keep destroying. What are you destroying? What are you demolishing? You don't have the stocks. People have brought out their own makeshift structures. And what the best the country can do is to continue to demolish this one.
I know that at the base of our decentralization structure is the fact that MMDCEs are supposed to be, for example, cooperating with the citizens and security apparatus and other relevant state institutions to prevent the emergence of slums. Do you think this kind of cooperation is ever existent at all?
I think the answer is a big no. In fact, until the current Act 936, the Local Governance Act, which has created clearly the mandate of the local authorities in housing, it used not to be the case. So historically, since 1993, when the Act 462 used to be in existence, we have not had our local authorities focusing on housing. And housing is so critical for employment. social participation, for health, and for shelter. So if a whole local governance system that we've been operating the last 20 years has not focused on housing, that's what you will find. You will find slums. So I beg to say that the recent effort at establishing the Ministry for Zongo and Inner City comes handy. Unfortunately, this is happening within the constituency of the minister for Zongo and Inner Cities. I really feel very sad this is happening. I would say
but do you have hope for the prospects that that ministry brings, or whether you can see indications that they're actually ready for work?
Yes, I have hopes.
Right.
Hopes, but hopes must be backed with action. Government has to be committed. Resources have to be put where you have to put it, and then we believe there's hope. Right.
Farouk Brahima, we're grateful for your time. Thank you extremely, Farouk Brahima there. This is News at 10. We're live from the News Hub at Adesawe Kanda in Accra. We have more news for you. Please stay.
Stay connected for special treats on GoTV this May. There's a lot to learn from the story of us on Africa Magic Family.
No, just look at the time.
See who's really in charge in The Boss on Telemundo. The life of the warrior continues in the Forbidden Kingdom on Mnet Movie Zone.
I'm on a mission to find the secret of the stuff.
It's all supernatural in The Gifted on Fox.
It's complicated.
Beyond the Grandstand, catch El Clasico, IAAF, plus the Supersport FIFA World Cup channel.
It's ecstasy!
The Bazaar is fascinating in the adventures of Kid Danger on Nickelodeon.
Help!
And it's Operation Rescue in Escape from the Planet Earth on Mnet Movie Zone.
I love you guys.
Pick your treat this month on GoTV Max and GoTV Plus. We are entertainment. GoTV. Live it. Love it.
Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3newsgh for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3newsgh and at 3sportsgh. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment.
To every story, there's a deeper meaning, a host of angles, which, when reported with the highest ethics of journalism, bring out the perspectives that matters most to you. That's what News 360 is all about. I seek to climb higher, dig deeper, and go further to bring you 360 degrees of the news and what happens thereafter. I'm Natalie Fort. Join me on News 360 every weekday at 7 p.m.
The business world can be very dark and confusing. But with the right information from the experts, things get clearer.
There is smuggling, and that is why they are buying certain products at the price that they are buying them now.
But then you don't add another cost of doing business onto production line and onto businessmen.
And it even gets inspirational when we also hear the success stories of colleague entrepreneurs.
If you do the market segmentation, you realize that although there are a lot of courier companies, but specific segments are not saturated.
Business Focus makes the business world less confusing and more inspiring.
For priceless information about business and the economy, watch Business Focus on Mondays at 6 p.m. only on TV3.
Business Focus, inspiring business and economic growth.
Business Focus is brought to you by Star Life. Star Life, your solid partner for life.
Vodafone, the future is exciting. Ready?
Mama, you're amazing.
She is motivational. She makes you optimistic. She calms your tensions. Always there to help you, embracing you with love. She is real. She is a mother. She is selfless, selfless mother.
Mama,
Everything you need to know. Captivating. Reliable. Credible and breaking news. All at your fingertips.
Who's found Asamoah Gyan? Super finish!
Being on top of the news has never been easy. Visit us at www.3news.com for all your reliable news. 3 News, news at your fingertips.
Welcome back. Now, the Youth Employment Agency, YEA, is to post 15,000 community protection personnel to the various communities across the country. They have received 3 weeks of training in criminal intelligence and traffic management from the Ghana Police Service. Vice President Dr. Mahamadou Baumia, who spearheaded the program, is confident their recruitment will reduce crime in the communities.
It is expected that this program will improve the police to citizen ratio of the country. Beneficiaries of the program have been selected across the country to assist the police in this regard. We expect that the program will help reduce the crime levels in the country.
Right, security analyst Sani Adib is joining me on the telephone lines for a discussion on this. Mr. Adib, thank you extremely for joining us. Now, the community policing, how crucial is this to reducing crime? Would you say that the emphasis on community policing is misplaced? Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can hear you. I was asking how crucial community policing is and whether you would think that the state's emphasis on community policing is not really necessary, or it is necessary.
Well, the importance of community policing cannot be overemphasized because in 1876, when Sir Robert Peel established the Metropolitan Police in the UK, he came out with 9 principles of policing that has been the benchmark for best international practices when it comes to policing. And the fundamental principle around the 9 Pelian principles is the fact that relationship or relations between the police and the people would have to be harnessed based on mutual trust and respect. And one of the ways that can be done is through community policing, because it is based on the premise that the more interaction the police have with the people, the more likely the people are able to, as it were, appreciate their duties, and the more they are willing to cooperate with them. Because I've always been categorical over the fact that, look, the police cannot do their work, all the work themselves. They would need the people to give them critical information, critical intelligence, and that can only be possible when the people believe in the police, when they believe in the fact that the police can do their work, right, and their witness protection regime is protective enough, and whatever information you give to the police would be followed up to the latter. So all of these can be harnessed through the community policing intervention that is being currently implemented.
So it's clear from your narrative that community policing is crucial because these assistants are supposed to be visible and accessible in their communities, and they're also to be recruited from these communities. So good, you've said that. But key question is that neighborhood watchdog committees are already in existence in some areas, and in others the neighbors hardly know themselves. So with this as the background, what kind of advice would you give to these community police assistants who are coming in now, going to do quite the same job that the neighborhood watch committees were doing?
Well, I don't think there would be a duplication here or an overlap of authority, okay? But the best way
that's not my focus. My focus is that in some of these neighborhoods, people hardly know themselves. So this actually becomes problematic for the operations, successful operations of the community watchdog teams. So I mean, these assistants are coming in and they will face these same problems. So I'm asking how they can get around this.
Well, one of the ways they can get around this is by fostering a good relationship through constant and much more effective and efficient engagements. Of course, with the people of these communities, get to understand what their menacing security needs are, get to understand what their frustration is, and get them to give their own interpretation or suggestion as to how you can maintain peace. But you bring your professionalism to bear and see how best you can make sense of what their issues are, all geared towards protecting these communities. So for me, it is not all about these watchdogs, roaming around the communities in their vehicles and maintaining that discord between them and the communities. They need to engage them more. They need to engage opinion leaders, religious leaders, even the youth of this area. Okay, by so doing, we would get them to come closely in touch with these watchdog teams, and they will get to trust that they will be able to do their job once they give them the necessary cooperation.
Right, Ms. Adiba, we're grateful for your time. Thank you very much. Sani Adiba is the security analyst. Now, away from that, commercial farming of quails are increasing by the day as investment and maintenance is less compared to other birds. Tucked somewhere in Elmina is a young farmer who has been in the quail business for the past 5 years, and he says business is booming. Ajua Adubia has come through with this report.
Quails are small birds, also called bob white. It is becoming popular and accepted by many Ghanaians for its tasty meat, medicinal and nutritious value. Desmond Dapa started poultry farming when he was a child, a business he learned from his father. About 5 years ago, he was compelled to venture into quail farming after reading about its health benefits. Desmond makes about 3,000 cedis a month from the sale of live birds and eggs from his farm.
When I started with 50, because people don't know this bird, starting to market is very difficult. People have to understand. With the egg, at least, if the market, I earn 200 Ghana cedis.
He says the business is the main source of livelihood for his entire family. Philip York is one of his major customers.
We sell it 10 cedis. We want people to enjoy the quail meat and everything, and the nutritious aspect of the quail. When you take quail, you're safe, it's organic.
Looking at the low investment in its commercial production, government could tap into its potential in creating jobs for unemployed youth.
Now, encroachment on lands demarcated for roads in Teshi North area of the Lejokuku Krowo municipality continue to increase despite attempts by residents to halt the practice. The residents are blaming the municipal assembly over what they describe as lackadaisical attitude and lack of interest in protecting demarcated lands for roads.
Houses in these areas have been constructed in such a way that leaves lanes would serve as roads for easy access to various homes. Most residents at Ajoman in the Teshi North area for the past 6 years have complained about encroachment on such land reserved for roads, making access to their homes a daunting task. Some residents are either extending their boundaries or erecting illegal structures encroaching on such land. This container, for instance, has blocked part of the road. Drivers say they woke up one morning to see this dry line blocking the road completely. Gravel was also tipped here more than 7 months ago without anyone claiming ownership.
Every lane, it goes through from the end to end, but then unfortunately because of the buildings there, ours hasn't been going through since. So anytime, let's say a septic tanker is supposed to come in, it has to use the other way. We don't have access road from here. And then about 8 weeks ago, one big truck got spotted at the other end. And because we don't have access from this side, then everybody at all who was supposed to use this and to their homes had to park on the other street.
Cars are supposed to be able to pass here, but because of the buildings, they can't. And then the other road becomes very bad. School children, cars don't come in, and our house is on the other stretch. Our cars can't move into the house.
Residents were asked to pay 200 cedis for demolition notice to be posted on encroached structures. Some of the notices have been cleaned by the offenders, while others repainted the walls on which they were written. The concerned residents claimed Lekma authorities, since writing on these walls 2 years ago, have not taken any action.
They just promise us that they are going to do what they are supposed to do. They will bring their tax people to demolish whatever, but then we don't hear from them.
The residents want city authorities to act now.
I wouldn't like the place to be demolished in the sense that we are neighbors. But when they came to measure the place, I noticed the entire building is in the road. Then in front of the house, there's a space there that we can detour through. So if that container could be cleared there, I'll appreciate it so that we can be using that place. But if they fail, then I think the whole place should go down. Whoever is affected should be affected.
Right, so that's how we wrap up with News at 10. Thank you for making time to be with us. On behalf of the rest of the crew, good night. There is more news at 3news.com.
Hello, I'm Michelle McKinney-Hammond, best-selling author, international speaker, singer, pastor of relevance, relationship expert, and co-host of Case Study at 3FM 92.7. You know, people really have some serious issues that they can't discuss